Hey, what's going on, Impact Student Ministries? Anthony V here, your Student Ministries pastor once again, starting off a new series, and that new series is called It's Personal. And It's Personal is a message designed for you, talking about what it means to be personal, how Christ himself is personal with us, and how God's relationship with us is personal. And you know what? I want to start off with an awkward story about when I was younger. I was in a freshman year in high school. I was on the swim team. And the entire season that I swam on the same team, and I had a group of guys that I hung out with. Now, I was a freshman, and a lot of the guys I hung out with on my team individually, like my medley team, we had a team, but we had individual groups where we all swam together on certain events, right? Well, I was on the medley team, which each person does a different stroke. And all the guys on my team were older than me. And so I thought I was cool. Like, I was hanging out with the older kids and I was getting to know them, and the whole entire season I hung out with them on trips. We got on the bus and I would go with them and hang out with them for hours at a time locally, and we went out of state one time. I stayed on the bus. That was my group I hung out with. And I thought they were my buddies. I thought that they were my friends, and it was all good, right? And then it came to one of our big, I think it was, I don't remember if it was a championship or not, but it was one of our bigger meets. And there was a girl that was at the snack bar where we kind of were hanging out. And she was from our district, and she came over and started talking to us. Well, actually, she was talking to one of the guys, an older guy in the group. And being the nice guy that he was, he turned around to introduce us all. And so he's like, hey, this is my buddy Kyle, and my other buddy Mike, and this is John, and this is, and he got to me and he paused. And he said, what's your name again? See, in that moment, ouch, right? Oh man, this guy that I hung out with most of the whole entire swim season, the guy that I was on his team, like literally on his, not just his swim team, but in his group, we swam the same event together, didn't even know my name. And the reason why I bring that up is, of course, it was my turn to respond, and there's nothing I can respond back with to counter that. I know, obviously, I said what my name was, but the crazy thing is that for a few seconds there, it became very clear to me that this guy wasn't really my friend. He wasn't a good friend. We may have been acquaintances. I thought that we were really good friends, and it came out that we weren't as good as friends as I thought we were. I didn't talk much in the group. I hung out in the group. They were older kids, and so I kind of followed their lead. It was literally, I was literally on his melody relay team. Like, I was on the team. I was one of the guys, right? It's crazy because I swam on the team for the whole entire season, and he didn't even know my name. He had no clue what my name was, and it was interesting because in that moment I thought about it. I really started to think, and of course, you know, we have to think, does that mean that he doesn't like me, doesn't think I'm a nice guy? No, of course not. But he didn't know my name. Have you ever been there? Have you ever, or like, thought you were really tight with somebody, that you were in there, figured out your friendship or your relationship was really deep, and then in that moment, you realize that it wasn't as deep as you thought it was? It's not a great feeling, right? Deep down inside, I think we all live with this expectation that we want to be known. And the relationship shouldn't be fake. When you have a relationship with somebody, when you talk about having a relationship with somebody, it shouldn't be fake. They shouldn't be shallow, and they shouldn't make you feel like you could spend a huge amount of time with someone and then easily be forgotten. That's not a real relationship. That's not a relationship that I think I would ever want to be in. Relationships should not be fake. Regardless of whether or not you're a really social person, I think we can all agree that it comes to our relationships with our friends and people we spend a lot of time with, we want real ones. We want a real relationship. We don't want a fake relationship. We don't want a relationship where somebody acts like you're their friend and you hang out with them all the time, and then all of a sudden when it comes time to introduce you or to know you, or maybe talking to another friend, oh, who's that other guy we hang out with or other girl we hang out with, and they can't remember your name. Whether it's in your band or with teammates, it doesn't matter. The idea is that it doesn't feel good to be not known. Now, I realize that we want our relationships to be personal, and I really honestly believe that we all want our relationships to be personal. But see, there's a cheat code, and I've used this before, and I think it's a really good cheat code to figure out if somebody really knows you or knows your name, or if you're like really in with somebody, right? Figuring out if a relationship is personal or not, and it's easy. How I know if somebody is not a personal friend with me? And it doesn't mean they're not a friend or acquaintance, and please don't get me wrong when I say this, but I figure it out. They call me some generic nickname like Buddy or Chief or Yo Guy. Those are like indicators to me that somebody's not like a real personal friend, someone that's personal with me, that we have a personal relationship together. You probably experienced something like this where they've called you something other than your actual name, right? Referring to you as Guy or Fam, right? Or something other than your actual name, like your real name. The one that you literally lived your whole entire life being called by, because you guessed it. It's just like my friends on my swim team. They don't even know your name. Now think about that. The reason why I bring this up is it's super important when we're talking about a relationship with Christ and a relationship with God. And the reason why I know that is that it makes us feel important when people know our names. When they know our names personally, when somebody refers to us personally, it makes us feel good. There's a connection between us. It makes sure you know that person knows who you are. Now, it's interesting I say this because think about it. There's a lot of people in the really big business industry. They have these systems to help them remember people's names because people respond better when you remember their names. If I go to a business meeting with somebody, right, and I met them one time ever, and then a month later I go back and I'm like, oh, hey, Mike, how you doing? There's something about that clicks. This guy remembered my name. I must have made an impression. I must have really impressed this person, or this person really wants to get to know me, or they think highly of me because I remember their name. It's not a secret. People in the business industry and all throughout the world do this, and they have exercises to remember someone's name because it shows a personal relationship. And in the business world, it doesn't always have to be a personal relationship. It can be a monetary relationship, like all about the money, right? But they still go through exercises because they want to use someone's personal name because there's a connection there. Nobody wants a fake friend or a fake relationship. But you know what's the opposite of fake is? It's real, right? Like with sunglasses and shoes and certain clothes, like I want real. But other things that are not that important, I can get on wish.com because they're not a name brand. They're not the real deal, right? It's almost the same thing. I know there's a better word when it comes to people, and the opposite of real is personal. Now think about that. When it comes to people, the opposite of real is personal. And the reason why I say that, and I wrote it down, is think about it. Somebody can be real without knowing you personally. Somebody can be real without knowing you personally. It's true. They can be genuinely nice, and this is the real person who they are. But just because somebody's real doesn't always mean that they're personal, that you have a personal relationship with them. Much like I just used that business thing where, that person thinks there's a real connection because I remember their first name from maybe a month ago or a year ago, but we don't have a personal relationship because I don't know who they are. I don't know their family. I don't know all the things about them. And so it's different when you have a personal relationship with somebody. They can't even know, literally, you could have, make someone feel like you have a real relationship with them, but you don't even know much about them. And maybe you can think about it, trying to think of an example. And if somebody knows you because you sit next to them in math class, right? They know you are. They recognize you because of the brand you wear, or maybe they notice something they like about you, your hair or something like that, and they comment on it, right? That means they're recognizing you and they really see you, but that doesn't make it personal. being personal puts somebody in a whole different category. And that's what this series is all about. And so I really want to make sure we understand what it means by having a personal relationship with Christ and knowing that we are personally known by him, because I can know all the facts about God and about Christ and about God, and I can call him by his name and all these things. But unless I realize and I understand that he has a real personal relationship with me and I have with him, and that there's that connection, it makes it hard sometimes. It's not easy to understand. See, if I asked you to name everyone that you can think of who knows your name. If I asked you, if we were in the youth room and I asked you, hey, name everyone you can think of who knows your name. Name them, right? There are a bunch of examples, right? But name them. How many people do you think would be on that list? How many people do you think would be on that list? And then on the flip side of that, also wonder, if you make that list, would you put God on it? You make a list of all the people who personally know you by name, and if you made that list, would God be on it? If I didn't even bring that up, think about that. Would you even put his name on there? Most people would not, because they don't think of it in that sense. They don't think about that. See, here's the thing. Some of you may have grown up hearing that God knows your name. There are a bunch of examples in the Bible that say that, and God knows us that closely, right? Like when Jesus says, indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Every little hair on your head. With me, maybe not so much, right? But there's some little hairs there, but every hair on your head, he knows them. He counts them. He knows they're numbered. Seriously, that's getting pretty personal. If somebody knows all the hair on your, like the number of hairs on your head, that's personal. We all may think it's a little strange to know how many hairs are on our heads. Some of us struggle with the idea that God really knows us, right? Maybe you even feel like, does God really know me? Or is he more like the soccer coach that just says, hey, buddy, for 4 straight years calls you, hey, buddy. But there can be a lot of reasons why you feel that way about God. We all have our reasons. I knew when I was growing up, when someone told me that God was like my father, I've said this before, I kind of chuckled because growing up I didn't have a dad. And so I thought that was odd. I thought that was silly, because if I don't have a dad and I felt like my dad abandoned me and didn't care about me, like you're like comparing God to that. And that made it really hard for me, right? You might feel like he doesn't seem personal because you can't see him personally. And since you can't see him personally or hear him talk back to you when you talk to him, it makes it hard and strange to maybe pray, right? Or maybe you don't really know much about God. You don't know much about it because you didn't grow up in the church or even care much about church growing up. So it feels strange to think that he knows your name and actually cares about you. Maybe you've met Christians who don't seem to care about getting to know you. So why would God? Maybe you think he doesn't seem personal because he is real. Or maybe, let me reword that. Maybe you think he doesn't seem personal because if he's real, if he's just so big, if he's created everything, if he's done all these things, I mean, why would he care about me individually, personally? I mean, he created all the things in the world, all this stuff, all these beautiful things. Why would he want to have a personal relationship with me? Why would he know my name? Why would he want to know my name? So I want you guys to check out this picture. I want you guys to check this picture out and then tell me what, not tell me what you think because we're on video, but hey, check this picture out. All right, so that picture you just looked at, it was the Sombrero Galaxy. That's right, I said it, the Sombrero Galaxy. That's the name, and it's a lenticular galaxy in the constellation. Virgo found 31,100,000 light years from Earth. It's a really, really cool picture, right? See, the God that created this knows my name. What about this one? It's a butterfly nebula. And the God that created it knows my name. It's a planetary nebula in the constellation Scorpius, right? It's the most complex ever observed in a planetary nebulae. And the cool thing about the central star, it's one of the hottest stars known, with a surface temperature in excess of 450 kilotons. I think it's kilotons, right? 450 kiloton or K degree, whatever that is super, super hot, hotter than we can even imagine, hotter than our sun. It's crazy hot. Am I expected to believe that the God that created the butterfly nebula knows me personally? And then check out this last one real quick. Now this last one is really, really cool. I think it's really neat. The idea of it, the picture of it is to me is phenomenal, but it's called the Pillars of Creation. It's made of interstellar gas that's and dust, and it's in the Eagle Nebula, right? And it's weird. If you look at it, it looks like a hand reaching up. Specifically the Serpians constellation, some like 6,500 or 7,000 light years from Earth. And the gas and the dust are in the process of creating new stars. So while this is being eroded by the light from nearby stars, they haven't necessarily formed yet. That is so crazy cool to me. It's crazy cool because we're to believe that the God that created these things, and created all this energy and all this beauty in space, and so big and so vast, we're expected to know that he knows that my middle name is John. Why would he even care? Why would he even care? Well, I think there's actually some real understandable reasons. I believe that he does. I really believe that he does know me personally. I believe that he cares about me personally. I believe that he cares about you personally. And it's interesting, we're going to be talking about this guy named Zacchaeus. Now, Zacchaeus, for the next few weeks, I'll give you a little bit of a head start. He was a tax collector. And we know that Jesus loved tax collectors, right? Matter of fact, one of his disciples was a tax collector. It was a huge deal in their culture back then. Tax collectors were basically considered scammers and traitors. Nobody trusted them. They tended to look out just for themselves. But first of all, Zacchaeus was a Jewish guy working for the Roman Empire. So the Jews did not trust this dude at all. He basically bullied the Jewish people into paying taxes, enough to pay the Romans and as well as enough to make a living, right? And if that wasn't bad enough, the tax collectors weren't exactly stand-up dudes. Like, they made their money by taking money from others. This guy, he steals the money, he collects it. Think about him as the guy that steals the money, like you're collecting a fundraiser for your school, right? And this dude swoops in and steals it because he owes somebody money. That's like the equivalent of what tax collectors would do, or what they were seen as doing back in those days. And this guy was a chief tax collector, so he was in charge of all the other tax collectors in the area. The worst of guys. At this point in Jesus' life, he had gone from being a casual carpenter son to being a big deal. Like, everybody knew who Jesus was at this point, and was known for all these miracles and things. All this stuff was going on. And crowds would gather and try to get a glimpse of the Rabbi Jesus, who was healing people, and they were touching his robe. And this is a big deal. This is going on. And Zacchaeus was known during this time. He was there during this time. He saw and witnessed this. And when Jesus came by, he looked at Zacchaeus, right? And he called him by his name. He never met him before. He called him by his name. Now, we can say whatever, he probably heard about him. Okay. But he knew him by his name, and he said, "Quick, come down. I must be a guest in your house today." And then Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in the great excitement and joy. And that was in Luke 19, 5-6. Because see, Zacchaeus had climbed up in a tree because he was kind of a short dude, and he wanted to be able to see this guy named Jesus. Just walking the crowd and looks up at him in a tree and says, "Dude, Zacchaeus, get down here." Now, that would have freaked me out. How does this guy know me my name? This healer, this guy they're calling the Messiah. So let's break it down a little bit. Out of this giant crowd, he picks him out. He goes to his house. And during this whole process, people were upset with Jesus for going to his home. Because why would he go to the chief tax collector's home and eat dinner with him and relax with him? Out of all the people, why this guy? See, Zacchaeus took this as an honor, and an honor that he responded to very quickly. And maybe if you would have saw this in modern day, you would have grumbled and been upset. Maybe there were a lot of haters in that crowd, like there are haters in ours. And this guy was, they didn't like him very much. But the crazy, crazy, crazy thing that happened was that Jesus knew him personally. He knew his heart. And he literally sidelines him and says, like, pay attention, dude. You're doing this to your own people. And he called him out. The guy that Jesus made sure to know that he knew his name. And by the way, he does do the same for you. He knew this guy by name. He called him out. He brought him down. He went to his home. He ate dinner with him. He talked to him. And he literally said, okay, like, God sees you, man. I know your name. I know you personally. I know your heart. I know what you've been doing. I know what's going on. This whole thing changed Zacchaeus. I don't want to go too far into this because we're going to talk about this for the next few weeks. But Zacchaeus probably had no intention of totally changing his life when he first got up on that tree. But he was just taking a few steps towards seeing Jesus himself. He wanted to see what this big deal, this Jesus guy was. No matter what you think about God or faith or Christians, I want you to know this. I really do. And think about this. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. For some people, it doesn't always sit well, right? It doesn't sit well. You might have questions about that. You might have doubts about that. And that's okay. That's fine. We all did. We all do. But what would it look like for you to hop up in that tree to get a better look at Jesus? To rethink or reimagine what God is like. To start asking some of those questions. Maybe questions might sound a lot like, what is God like? Really? What does God say about me? What does God say about the people around me? Basically, Jesus challenged the way that everybody thought about God. There is just something that happens when you recognize that this God of the universe, right, is a personal God, that he wants to have a personal relationship with us. It changed Zacchaeus' life. It already changed the lives of so many others, but for this guy, it dug down deep. He did. And it doesn't stop there. We've talked about how powerful it can be known, how powerful it can be to be known by the God of the universe. That he knows your name. He knows the number of hairs on your head. He knows you. He cares about you. But if that's true for you, that's also true for the person next to you. And those people on your team that you may not know. Your siblings and your parents. And that kid in your school that you avoid, and that teacher you can't stand. Here's what I'm getting at. A relationship with Jesus is always personal. Always personal. He personally wants to know you. It's personal for you and for me. So let me ask, how can we make it personal for others? How can we make this personal for others? And I think it basically comes down to a few things. The people around you may not know God cares about them personally until you care about them personally. And the best way to do this is to learn their names. Learn their names. Learn their names. The second thing is to learn the right way to pronounce their names. If you have an easy name like my middle name, John, you may not have ever experienced this, but have you ever had that teacher, that substitute that always pronounces your name in a weird way, even though you may have the most basic name, and how annoying that is? Or maybe if you know somebody or a friend or something that you just can't pronounce their name very well, but did you ask how to pronounce the name? Learn the right way to pronounce people's names. That goes a long way. And the last thing is, use your names when you see them. Not hey buddy or hey guy or hey bro or what's up fam. Use their name. Personally use their name. I get it. It may seem so basic and so weird, but it's a big deal. Knowing someone's name is an absolute simplest thing we can do to let someone know, to communicate to somebody that they matter. And if someone feels like they don't matter, it can also have a huge impact. We want people to know they matter. We have a personal God. And he also happens to be a personal God who is mind-blowing amazing, that has created all these great things and created all this stuff and knows the number of hairs on your head. And he personally wants to know you. He personally wants to have a relationship with you because he cares about you and about that. I have a relationship with God. You have a relationship with God. All of our relationships with God are different and they're personal. And that's the way that God wants it. I know it may seem ridiculous or hard to believe and overly like, how can the God of the universe, who's so grateful, our grace gives us so much grace, how can he? But he still knows your name and he still calls you by your name. One of the greatest, I believe one of the greatest ways to point people to this kind of personal God is by modeling what it looks like to be personal with others. When we're personal with others, we are a model of what that personal relationship with God is. We want you to always, that's the idea behind our small groups, is that it is a personal group time where we know each other's names and we listen to each other and we feel heard. And we feel like people know us personally. That's what the small group is designed to be. That's what I hope when you come on midweeks and stuff, that our personal groups, our small groups, I hope that's what they do for you. We know who you are. We want to know who you are. We want to know your name. We want to know how to pronounce your name. No one should come in our door and feel like they don't fit in or nobody knows them. Jesus always made it personal. With all the people around him, he always made it personal by simply knowing their names. I won't say any names, but there was a girl that came to one of our midweeks a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, just call me da-da-da," right? Not da-da-da, but I'm not going to say the name. And I said, "Okay." And then I looked at the form and I realized it was a different name. And I said, "Wait a second, that's not your name." And she's like, "Well, that's what I have everybody call me." And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Because no one ever pronounces my name the right way." And I said, "Well, how do you do it?" And she's like, "Well, try first." And so I did. And of course I messed it up. But I hope that made her feel like, man, I personally want to know you. Like, I want to know how to say your name. It's important. And so even though she'd rather me call her by her nickname, she still, I think, engaged with the fact that I wanted to know how to say her real name. It's important. It's important that we know each other personally. It's important that we feel known. And it's very, very important that we know that the God of the universe, who created all these cool stars that we just looked at, these constellations and nebulas and stuff, created this earth and this world and all these beautiful, crazy things and intricate design, the things that we see, cares so much for us personally, for you personally, that he knows you by your name. He knows that I'm Anthony John Villa. He knows my first name. He knows all the hairs on my bald head. It's personal, guys. It's personal. And it's a relationship that he wants to have with every single one of you. Thank you for listening. I know I went over a little bit like more than I've done in the past, but this is the first message in this series. And I hope that you are going to follow us. I hope, and I'm sure that the messages following this will be shorter. The first one tends to be a little longer. But let me go ahead and pray for us, and then I will get you guys out of here. Father God, we love you and we praise you. And we just thank you so, so much for all the things that you do for us. We love the fact that you know us personally, that you want us to know how much you know us personally, that you desire to know us personally. And to throughout the Bible, in so many stories and so many things, it talks about how personal that relationship between you and us is, God. So I thank you for that. I thank you that you give me so much grace and so much love and so many chances over and over again that I don't deserve. And it's because you know me personally, because you want to know me personally, and you want me to know that you know me personally. So Lord, I hope that these students and these parents and whoever is watching this, God, I hope they pursue that relationship with you, God, more than anything else, more than anybody else, but that true relationship with you, God, because that personal relationship is mine and theirs and yours, and they're all different, but they're all so important to you, God. So I hope they know that. I hope they pursue that. I hope they ask those questions, God, because it's so important that we all know that you personally know us by name. Love you and praise you in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen. All right, guys, I'll put a couple things on here, so stay on for a couple minutes. You can see some of the advertisements and things coming up, like our mission trip and winter retreat and all this stuff going on. You guys have a great week, and I will see you next time.